This is an ad by BetterHelp. What's your perfect night? Maybe you're settled at home alone or with loved ones, covered in blankets, about to watch your favorite show. It's cozy, it's calm, and you're ready for a perfect night in. Therapy can feel a bit like that. A place for comfort. A time when you replenish your energy and take care of yourself. And hey, you can even do it without leaving that same cozy couch. This season is the perfect time to give therapy a try, right from the comfort of home. With BetterHelp, get matched with a tailored therapist based on your needs and preferences, entirely online. Designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a therapist, and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find comfort this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com to learn more and save 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What's your perfect night? Maybe you're settled at home alone or with loved ones, covered in blankets, about to watch your favorite show. It's cozy, it's calm, and you're ready for a perfect night in. Therapy can feel a bit like that. A place for comfort, a time when you replenish your energy and take care of yourself. And hey, you can even do it without leaving that same cozy couch. This season is the perfect time to give therapy a try, right from the comfort of home. With BetterHelp, get matched with a tailored therapist based on your needs and preferences entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find comfort this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
Coming out with the Power Trips, Max Fuller, Friday the 27th at Casper's in Eagan for a Wolves watch party. Get there at 7 to watch your Timberwolves in action and sign up for your chance to qualify for first round playoffs tickets next year. Full details now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
We've crossed the 2 o'clock hour, 2 hours, 1 to go. What is that, 3 segments? We can knock that out. I think we can make that happen.
100%.
Guardsy follows 3 to 6:30 today. I'm looking forward to jumping on with Football Feast tomorrow at Buffalo Wild Wings Plymouth. For those of you planning on making the journey, always a festive atmosphere on Border Battle Week. Continue our discussion of the Purple and the Pack and the big game on Sunday. But it looks like our buddy old Southside guy wants to chat some Timberwolves. So let's see what he's got on his mind. Southside, what's happening, my man?
Hey, good afternoon, Davey. Nice to hear you on here
Thanks.
With Brett. Yeah, you'll hear my Packer Viking takes on Sunday, but I want to talk some NBA basketball here. You know that I see all the Wolf games live, so I do talk to a lot of season ticket holders who have been around for a long time, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if the game is becoming more boring or if it's becoming more predictable. But one thing that's hurting the NBA game, and it's certainly been talked a lot by a lot of the talking heads on national sports talk, and that is this emphasis on the three-point shot. I mean, it's getting to the point where if you look at the statistics in yesterday's game in the Timberwolf game, there were 75 threes attempted. Anthony Edwards, who I think you'll agree with me, is probably one of the best, if not the best, player in the NBA at getting to the rim, and he was 0 for 0 on free throws, okay? And if you watched any of that Philadelphia-Boston game, they attempted 89 threes in that game, okay? I'm sorry, that's just too many. My take on it would be, and it's not a unique take, but I'd like to hear yours. I think we're going to have to limit the amount of threes that can be scored. I would limit it to 15 or 20 per team per game. And on your 16th attempt or your 21st attempt, if you want to take a shot from three, that's fine, but it's only going to be scored 2 points then. But maybe we would see more passing in the game. I'm certainly old enough to remember the days of Magic Johnson and some of the good Boston teams where you would really see some good passing and some good strategy in these games. But the three-point shot, it's exciting to a certain extent, but I think it's ruining the game when it becomes so excessive like this, and I think we're going to have to do something. So your thoughts on that, Davey, and have a great day.
Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate the call. It's a great subject to chat about. We love the game of basketball and the NBA game in particular, and it has gotten to a point now where it is so controlled by the three, and again, we can blame the analytics people that figured out that shooting a three every minute you're on the court is still going to pay off more than shooting a two at a higher percentage, and those numbers don't change. The Boston Celtics shoot, I think, 51 threes a game, which is more than one per minute, and it has taken the beauty out of the game. It's taken the rhythm of the offense. We can go back to the Splash Brothers, and that's where it really started. Once Curry and Thompson showed how great, all-time great they were, everybody wanted to do it. And it starts, and it bothers Trent Tucker to no end, that the game is being taught a different way, and kids want to shoot threes, and that's just what the emphasis starts with. And you lose out on what makes the game great, and that is five people working in synchronicity, moving, screening, and working for the best shot possible. And that is not what the game is. I don't see a scenario where a team is limited to X number of threes shot per game and then you're done. I don't think that's reasonable. I understand it. I'd like to do something. We talk about moving the line back. I mentioned getting rid of the corner three, like making it more of a less of an arc, like it just starts maybe 15, 20 feet out, and then the corner three's gone. And that's pretty, that's pretty crazy in the grand scheme of things, too. But the commissioner understands it. The ratings are down. The game's not as enjoyable to watch when teams are just chucking threes all day long. And Ant's been very good at it, shooting, 41, 42%. But it does take away what his great advantage is, his physicality, his explosiveness. When he loads up and heads into the lane, Wolves fans hold their breath and get excited. What's coming? What are we going to see? Is it going to be a slam? Is it going to be a nimble move around the basket and finding a great angle off the glass? There should not ever be a day where Anthony Edwards does not shoot a free throw in an NBA game. I understand he's become very proficient, and maybe being on the Olympic team and watching how Steph warm up is great, and watching how these veterans prepare is great. But the fact that he came back from Paris in love with the three, I know it's off-putting to a lot of Wolves fans because we don't see Ant attacking the glass. And let's be honest, the whole offense is still trying to figure things out. They don't really know yet how to play with Randall and how to get the best out of Dante. Whether Randall's a short-term fix or a long-term fix, fourth quarters are almost unwatchable right now for this team. Time and time again, they really struggle to find any kind of rhythm offensively. It's put the ball in one of those two guys' hand, Randall or Ant, and let's see what they can do. And it's not always that enjoyable, got to be honest. It just hasn't been as fun to watch. All right, back to the text lines. This one caught my eye during the break. I don't have a name. 907 guy? 907 area code? Don't know where that is. Historically, the Packers get the calls. That's always a great one. Will this week's game be different because the NFL wants the Vikings to win? A Lions-Vikings game for the number one seed, playing each other for all the marbles in Week 18, could be the highest stakes regular season NFL game in league history. All right, well, let's slow our roll. There have been number one seeds decided on Sunday Night Football Week 18 before. Historically, the Packers get the calls. Saw a tweet. I actually screenshotted this one in case something like this came up. This was a tweet. I don't even know who sent it out. I just have the screenshot. It's called Blessed by the Refs. Penalties for weeks 1 through 16 this season. No team has benefited more on penalty calls than the Minnesota Vikings this season. They're number one, meaning the number of penalties. So the Vikings have been called for 97 penalties for 768 yards. Their opponents, 126 penalties for 1,085 yards. That's a plus 29 in penalties and a plus 317 in yards. That's number one in the NFL this season. Green Bay, for comparison purposes, this year ranks 15th, middle of the pack. They've been called for 99. Their opponents have been called for 100. So they're plus one, and they're plus 114 in the yards department. But for this ranking, it's about the number of penalties called. Vikes are plus 29. The next best team is Atlanta. They're plus 19. The Rams are plus 18. The Chiefs, 16. The Steelers, 15. Interestingly, the bottom two teams that are the most negative, the Eagles and Ravens, two Super Bowl hopefuls, are at the bottom. 32nd is the Ravens. They've been called for 30 more penalties than their opponents. The Eagles are next at 27, yet somehow they've risen above and found a way to win. But this whole, Packers get the calls. I've been hearing that for the 30 years I've been on the fan. It probably evens out year to year. But just interestingly, this year, the Vikings are number one. And that's not necessarily an official thing. That could be just you're a more disciplined team. Your offense isn't jumping. Or your offense is causing the defense to jump or causing them to make penalties. But historically is not at least a situation that has been a thing this year. All right, let's grab another call. Heading to Holly, Minnesota. Rob joins the program. Good afternoon, Rob. You're on the Fan.
Oh, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I just wanted to offer up an alternative point of view that I have noticed. I'm like you, a longtime basketball viewer, watcher, and used to play, but only play pickup anymore. But anyway, the point is there's this what I would call a mainstream narrative out there that the NBA is like cratering or it's down. I mean, you can see these YouTubes and other people in legacy media saying that stuff. But I guess I was kind of curious about the actual veracity of that, and if anybody cared to, there is other information out there, primarily based on the fact that there's other streaming sources out there. I'm not going to say them over the air on your powerful radio station, but they're not that hard to find also if you search them online. And there's two significant ones that show that NBA viewership on their alternative streaming sources is up like 25%. And so I guess all I'm bringing up or raising the point is that the surface, or whatever you want to call it, as I would say, the mainstream narrative is overblown and sort of overcooked and overdone as a talking point in my humble view. I mean, it's probably not as great as when you have I'm saying the NBA viewership is probably not as great as when you have like the Warriors and the Cavs last decade or the Lakers and the Celtics, right? But at the same time, it's not as the sky is falling as everything's making it out to be. I would agree with you and your last caller, though, that I would like to see less three-pointers being shot. And I would absolutely be for eliminating the corner threes, have the three-point line come around at the elbows or shoulders or whatever, and then just run right out of bounds, because that would then force probably more teams to reconsider how many threes that they are trying to design for in their offense, because half or 2/3 of the team shooting 43 pointers a game minimum is getting to be a bit absurd. I mean, that's, there's one Steph Curry, there's one Ray Allen, and so on and so forth. I think you know what I mean. And just simply the point is that, that mainstream talking point is a bit false or fraudulent. And then I, agree with you guys. I would like to see less threes, and also agree that Anthony Edwards not shooting any free throws in an entire NBA game is just patently absurd. I think, that there's a lot of teams out there that definitely could do a lot better designing of offense without the focus on the three-pointer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate the call and those thoughts, because I hadn't thought about, folks that find the games illegally on the stream. I know that it's done, certainly the younger demo. Look at my son, not trying to get him in trouble, but, he's a Timberwolves fanatic. He goes to school in Indiana. He can't get the FanDuel Sports now, not Bally's, whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
Can't get the Wolves, can't get Grady and Pete. And so he finds a stream and watches that way. He's not the only one, but how prevalent is it? Like how many, that's not just young people. There are older people that are technologically advanced enough that don't want to pay whatever it costs to get the regular networks and have found a way illegally to stream it. I suppose that factors in.
Yeah, well, of course, he mutes the stream so then he can listen to the Timberwolves channel on the free iHeartRadio app.
There's no question.
Yeah, of course.
That actually went without saying. Of course, that's the case.
I just figured as much.
So I'm glad he brought that up. I don't have any idea how prevalent that is. I don't know how anybody could find out how prevalent that is, but I'm sure that does factor in. But from a watchability standpoint, look, the games yesterday were, for those that bothered to watch the NBA, and maybe you watched the Wolves game. You don't get the Wolves on Christmas Day very often. You were treated to a win. You walked away from the game going, I mean, I literally was almost sweating watching the end of that game. I mean, they're up 28 points. Everything's going well. Luka's knocked out with a calf injury. You're just going to ease through this nice road win in Dallas on Christmas. But no, that would be too easy. They're going to make you sweat. They're going to watch Dallas cut it to 2 points with Kyrie hoisting a three in the final minute to take the lead. And I was like inside, I felt like I'm watching game 3 of the Western Conference Finals. It's a December game, but just the ramifications had they lost that game of you can't close out a Dallas team without I'm going to call him the third best player on the planet playing for them. I still rank Jokic and Giannis ahead of him. But a top 3 player on the planet's been knocked out. You're up 28, and you still make us sweat till the end. It's frustrating, but we love the team. So we're watching the games on Christmas. I doubt anybody listening watched all 5 games yesterday. I'm just going to guess with the NFL and family stuff. But if you did watch all 5, you were treated to really fun, close, competitive, down-to-the-wire games. From game 1, where you had 2 40-point scorers, I think it's the first time it's ever happened on Christmas. You had Mikal Bridges for the Knicks and Victor Wembanyama for the Spurs, both top 40. Then you had Embiid and Maxey going off in Boston and shocking the Celtics. I'm already throwing away the Wolves. We already talked about the Wolves before that. Then you had Steph and LeBron, maybe for the last time, dueling on Christmas for the 5th time, and they both went over 30. And they were both brilliant. Curry knocks down a 30-footer in the last 10 seconds after they lost a lead late. Anthony Davis got knocked out early. They're down 10 in the 4th quarter. They take the lead. And Austin Reeves with the game winner to shock the Warriors. And then the last game, Phoenix-Denver, was a 10-point game. But as I said, Michael Grady was on the call. So it was listenable for all 48 minutes. It was a great day for basketball. But I don't know how many people saw it because the NFL is king. And even though they were 2 non-competitive games, they were 4 playoff teams in the AFC competing. And for a lot of people, for millions of people, it's the fantasy championship weekend. And maybe you had Mahomes or were playing against him. And maybe, like me, you had both Lamar and Derrick Henry in Charch's Guillotine League championship. And you were feeling really good watching those 2 guys go off, even though the game was not at all competitive. It was a good run for the NBA on Christmas Day. They had a lot of fun years. They're going to keep doing it. But the NFL is here to stay. With Netflix saying 1/3 of their 282 million subscribers. 1/3 of them at some point checked out football. Think about it. 90-some million people on Netflix watched NFL football yesterday. A really good NFL game might draw 20 million people, maybe 30. There were 90 throughout the day watching Netflix. So, yeah, Christmas NFL football. I'd say outside of Tuesday. Maybe if Christmas falls on a Tuesday, maybe you could end a week on a Tuesday and play on, like, the end of the week. Because you can't really. The only reason that the teams played on Wednesday is they played on Saturday. So they had the requisite number of days off. But, yeah, it's here to stay. I'm painfully late for a break, am I not? Let's do that. We'll come back on a call to take. Continue to talk a border battle as we are T-minus, well, almost 3 days exactly. 73 hours from kickoff? We'll still bat that one around before we are done at 3. It's the Common Man Program on the Fan.
Head over to NFLShop.com for the largest collection of officially licensed gear from all your favorite brands. NFL Shop is your ultimate gifting destination for jerseys, t-shirts, headwear, and more. Take your game day style to the next level with the best selection of NFL gear anywhere. Show off your team pride this holiday season with styles fit for the whole family. To shop now, go to NFLShop.com.
Tune in to Wild Wednesday each week for your chance to win tickets to see your Minnesota Wild in an upcoming game. Wild Wednesdays are presented by Jim Beam, a crowd pleaser since 1795.
Back with you at 2:25. Alec Lewis tweeted out during the break that he just left Vikings practice, and both Ivan Pace and Harrison Smith were active and participating. So a good sign for them that they might be good to go for the border battle on Sunday. Brett mentioned earlier that Matt LaFleur has publicly said it doesn't look like Jair Alexander will play. That'll mark his 5th consecutive game missed, and they did not place him on IR. So, you read between the lines, clearly they expected Alexander to return in the last month or so, and he has not been able to answer the bell. We talk about injury designations a lot. Typically on a Friday, if a player is deemed doubtful, they're not playing. Well, an hour ago, we deemed Paul Charchian doubtful. And it appears he is rallying to be able to join us in our final segment.
Oh, my gosh.
Just wrapping up his podcast. He'll be joining us in our final segment to chat border battle and a little fantasy before we are gone. Let's get back for this segment to our 3-point conversation. I have a number of interesting texts I want to bang through quickly. And one caller, kind enough to hold through the break, wants to weigh in. So let's head to St. Paul and welcome Andy to the program. Andy, you're on the Fan. What's up, Andy?
Hey, Dave. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, sure.
I agree with all the callers that the three-point shot is ruining professional basketball, but let me tell you where it's really doing great damage, and that's in high school and with the youth. I have done a lot of coaching at that level, and what I see kids, they'll come into the gym. I see this at Lifetime when I'm working out, too. They'll come into the gym. It'll be 15 degrees in January. They'll peel off their coat and their boots. They'll put on their tennis shoes, and they'll go out and start launching three-pointers. And these are kids that are 8, 9 years old, and they're not strong enough to shoot a three-pointer, so they're launching that shot generally from their hip or their knees. And you see this in high school players. By the time they're seniors and juniors, they're still starting a shot from below their chin because they've never developed decent form because they started shooting three-pointers when they weren't strong enough. And it just ruins that. You know, in basketball, getting a shot off is about time and space. And when you have to start a shot from your hip, you have neither time or space, and I think it's just ruining kids.
It's a great point. Trent Tucker's been preaching that on In the Zone for I don't even know how many years. Appreciate the call, Andy. That's a guy who is a proficient three-point shooter who made his name in the NBA as a three-point shooter. Had the three-point shot existed in college basketball when he played for the Maroon and Gold, I don't know where Trent would be on the career scoring list. In fact, I don't know where he is now on the career gopher scoring list, but he'd be a whole lot higher if the three-point shot. So there's a guy that made a career shooting from three-point range, and it just saddens him to no end for that very reason. He had camps for years where he's trying to teach fundamentals, and his instructors made it very clear that we're not here to shoot threes. That's not – if you came to the Trent Tucker camp thinking you were going to shoot threes all day, that's not the plan. We're going to teach you proper shooting form, defensive form, everything else. But he's decried that that's where it starts. AAU, and even sooner, as Andy said, where kids just want to be Steph Curry and shoot the three. Never mind that you're 4 feet tall and you're shooting from a line that college kids shoot from. But what do you do now with the NBA when analytics say if you shoot 38% from three as a team, that makes more sense than shooting 48% from two. So jack them up all day. So something has to change. I've had several ideas come in just in the last few minutes on the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line. I mean, they're all going to sound radical, just like the one I threw out and the caller did. Eliminate the corner three, start it out at the elbow, wherever it is. And that will certainly alter how you've got to conduct your offense. One texter, 651 guy, says one change would be to only allow teams to take 3-point shots once the shot clock is less than 10 seconds. Can't shoot one up. Got to pass it around. But then you're just going to get ISO ball, right? Somebody just dribbling out till it gets down to 10, and now here we go. We can shoot the three. So I don't think that necessarily, I understand it. I don't think that's going to make a big difference. Another 651 texter. How about making each missed 3-point shot -1 points? That's radical. It's never going to happen. I like it, though. I mean, that's going to change everything. You're not going to shoot the threes if you're going to lose one more than, 60-some% of the time you're going to lose a point. So they're not going to do it. But I appreciate you want to just eliminate the three, that's how you do it. 612 texter. What if you flip the scoring and you got 3 points closer to the basket and 2 points further from the basket? Would it bring back old school basketball, protect the paint? Yes, it would. I think I threw out a week or two ago, dunks are 3 points too. So you get a 3 for a 3, but you also get a 3 for a dunk. Is that ridiculous? It sounds ridiculous. I mean, as I say it, it sounds ridiculous to me. But I'd love to just see what would happen. Like, what would the game look like? If you're forcing it into the paint. I mean, you can't guarantee Rudy's going to get the dunk to go in. That's a problem. You're not guaranteed Rudy's going to catch the pass. That might mess with things. But maybe Ant isn't so quick to just fire up threes if he knows if he attacks the paint and slams it, that's going to get you 3 points too. These are all obviously radical calls that are never going to happen.
What if you miss a certain amount of 3-point shots, you have to go to like a penalty box and sit there for 2 minutes?
The hockey scenario's coming through for you. Once you've missed, 3 or 4 threes in a game, you have to sit for 2 minutes.
Well, the question would be, would it be a power play or would you just have to sub out? What would be, the more radical thing would be
power play. That's not going to be a thing. Yeah, that's not going to be a thing in basketball. No.
Well, we're throwing out ideas.
We like to call it spitballing.
Yeah.
Where we're spitballing here.
That one didn't stick.
The NBA has never been afraid of changing things pretty radically. And you can say, well, just move the line back, but they've moved it back. They've moved it up. They don't really know what the sweet spot is. And part of me thinks if you move it out to 28 feet, people are just going to figure out how to shoot them from 28 feet. It's going to make the Dame Lillards of the world even more valuable. The guys that just can execute that shot from wherever. What we can all agree on is the game isn't as enjoyable to watch when teams are shooting 40 to 50 threes in a game. They're just not. I mean, maybe for some people that's their thing, but clearly the ratings reflect the idea that it's not as enjoyable an experience watching the game right now when teams are shooting it combined 80 times from deep, virtually once a minute. It's crazy. So I do expect the NBA to come up with something at some point. They're not going to just dip their heads in the sand and say, yeah, it's just the game. It's what teams are doing. It's working. Well, it's not working. And I know when they see the ratings. Have we seen the ratings yet for yesterday's NBA action? I have not either. They are obviously going to be dwarfed by the NFL on a streaming service. And that'll be red flag number one. And they'll understand that Christmas is no longer theirs. And it's not just about 3-point shooting is why the NFL is going to dominate them. We know why they're going to dominate them. But if you do make the game a little bit more entertaining, you will keep some people around. Like I said, the games were all really fun yesterday. And with big stars performing at their best and games that came down to the wire, it's all you could ask for on a Christmas day. All right, we'll pause one final time. Charts will join at some point here in the final segment as we turn our attention back to football. Week 17 upon us, 2 games in the books, 1 game tonight, and then a full slate on Sunday and Lions on Monday. For those of you in your fantasy championship, you might have a big lead already. You might be chasing. We'll get some thoughts from Charch on how to attack Week 17, look at his guillotine format for the playoffs, and get his early read on the border battle. Of course, he'll be co-hosting the feast tomorrow with PA from Buffalo Wild Wings in Plymouth, 9 to noon. Final segment, noon to 3, comes up right after these.
Head over to NFLShop.com for the largest collection of officially licensed gear from all your favorite brands. NFL Shop is your ultimate gifting destination for jerseys, t-shirts, headwear, and more. Take your game day style to the next level with the best selection of NFL gear anywhere. Show off your team pride this holiday season with styles fit for the whole family. To shop now, go to NFLShop.com.
We're back. Final segment, today's edition of the program. Dave Sinekian sitting in for Common with Brett Blakemore today, top of the hour. It's JG in for Bump. JG and Blakemore taking you home the rest of the way. I know Guardsy has a august lineup of guests joining him beginning at 3 o'clock, and I've got one right now. Hot off handling his own fantasy podcast, Paul Charchian joins for our final segment. Charch, thanks for making time, my friend. How we doing?
No, I'm doing great. I'm excited to have you on the feast tomorrow in Plymouth. It'll be great to have you there where I know you revel in the booing.
I do.
You do.
I love it.
You soak it in. You love it.
It's the best. How many people get that opportunity just to be roundly just despised and booed as you enter a live environment like that where people have been drinking for a couple hours and I'm the subject of their scorn? Yeah, I love that. I mean, I love the fact that I've been able to do this bit for 30 years on the Viking station. It's just, I don't take it lightly. I don't take it for granted. It's so rare. It's unusual.
It is.
And I just, part of me just likes annoying people. I don't know. It's just, it's how I'm wired, I think.
You do it well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I think we all find you highly annoying, so we appreciate that very much.
On a success that way.
Yes, your team comes in having destroyed consecutive opponents, toyed with them, and I mean this seriously, it's going to sound tongue in cheek, but is overconfidence a worry?
Do you remember the last time these two teams met and how that thing started? No, I don't.
Yeah, your team was down by 50 and then you nearly won.
Yeah, and our quarterback was still trying to test out that knee and figure whether it was 100% or not. No, I don't think overconfidence is a concern. You know, I'd love to have 3 starting secondary members that are not going to play Sunday to deal with this passing attack. I think that's an issue.
Whoa. Has Jair been ruled out for this one?
Matt LaFleur says he has not expected him to play. He does not expect him to play on Sunday. He's already said that today, which I think speaks volumes that he wouldn't just hold that. You know, why put that out there, right? Why not just say, we'll test it pregame, see how he feels. I think he's making a statement by making that comment today that don't expect to
statement for who, Jair. By the way? For Jair,
I think for Jair. Yeah, I don't believe he'll play another down for the green and gold. I don't. I think he's done.
Wow, it's come to this for him.
I just have a feeling. Yep, I do. I don't have any knowledge. It's just a hunch. But yeah.
Clearly he's burned bridges with that team.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he's maybe inside that locker room, the guy they want him to be with all those young guys in that room, that secondary room. Maybe they don't like the message he sends or how he comports himself. I don't know. I'm just from the outside. That's my take. And for all, who knows? Maybe come playoff time, 23's out there and everything's good, but you missed 5 games and you weren't put on IR when you could have used that roster spot. Tells me the organization expected him to be out there sooner, and he's not. So, no Jair, no Bullard, no Evan Williams, I don't believe. So, I mean, when you're playing Spencer Rattler at Lambeau in prime time, that secondary can look lights out. We'll see if Keyshawn Nixon's ready for his close-up. He's been very good having moved from the slot to the edge. He's done a lot better than I expected. Again, DK Metcalf, I think he did a nice job with. He hasn't been tasked with anything like Justin Jefferson yet. So we'll see how that goes. But that's from the Packers side of things, the concern is the secondary. Zane Anderson has been nice in a new role, but again, this is a new level of competition for him. So that to me is the matchup to watch from my team's standpoint.
Your team you got Spencer Rattler last week.
Yep.
A week before that, you guys ambushed Seattle, and that's I don't think there's any asterisk on that win. Before that was Detroit, and that was a team that was obviously completely decimated by injury. The game before that, you had this Miami team that showed up in Arctic conditions and was not interested in winning that game. The week before that, you managed to avoid Brock Purdy. You got Brandon Allen as the starting cornerback against you. And it feels like your team's just a little bit untested right now with a quality opponent, and that the Vikings will be the first one that this team has faced in a long time that's really ready to give this team a good fight.
All right, what's the best win the Vikings have? Who have they beaten? I'll wait. I got time. I got like 12 minutes. It's the same deal. Neither one has. I mean, really, neither team has beaten a team where you go, oh, okay. And it's no fault of their own. They haven't faced great teams, but I don't think the Vikes have beaten anybody. I mean, when Green Bay beat Arizona, they destroyed them. And then a couple weeks later, Arizona gave the Vikes all they wanted, and they haven't been heard from since. So
now that's fair. I mean, at the time, the 49ers win felt like a big deal. The Houston win in week 3 felt like a big deal, but those teams have proven to not be nearly as good as we thought they would be.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that's a pretty valid point. The best win the Vikings have is at Green Bay.
Right, with a quarterback who was coming off an injury and was shaken off the rust and was not ready.
And no kicker.
To play. And no kicker. Yeah. Nice point, Mr. Blakemore, as well.
Although, you can't, in one hand, say, our quarterback was shaky and he had, rusty. He threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns or something, right?
Well, yes. Most of it came after your defense was not interested anymore because you were up by 4 scores.
Well, that is true. We definitely went into a shell defensively.
Yeah, I don't take anything from that game. I don't. I think the Vikings came out, hammered the pack, but Jordan Love was clearly, freshly back from a knee injury, not confident, not willing to move out of the pocket at all. And Flores and that defense took advantage, as they should. Both quarterbacks are playing at such a high level right now, and their stats are eerily similar at this point in the season. And the questions that I and many Vikings fans had about Sam, I think the box was checked by that series against Seattle last week. The way he came back, got hobbled a bit and wasn't flustered and delivered a big road win against an above-average team. So the quarterbacks might be kind of a wash on Sunday. And, I think you can look at these two teams are really similar right now. I think the defense on the purple side is stronger, but I think the running game is more strong on Green Bay's side. I think both teams like their special teams. It's just a fun matchup, isn't it, Charch? I mean, the Vikes have everything in front of them. Green Bay is motivated to not fall to 7, but they're always motivated to play the Vikes, but they don't have the carrot at the end like the Vikings have, and there's so much there. It's just, can you remember a time where 2 games left and your favorite team has the 1 seed in sight and a real chance at the 6th seed if things go sideways the last 2 weeks? That's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. To be able to go from 1 to 6, it would be, honestly, be heartbreaking, and it could happen. I mean, these are 2 very good teams that this team's got to play next, and including yours, with the luxury, by the way, of being able to rest Josh Jacobs for the entire second half of last week's game. And I feel like this was the reason the Packers moved on from Aaron Jones, is they wanted a sturdy-bodied, physical running back with which they could pound the ball in late December and January. And here comes a fresh Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, it's giving off Eddie Lacy vibes is what it's doing, because he's really hard to bring down. He fights so hard. How about that stiff arm on Tyrann Mathieu on Monday night? Every football fan wants that out of their running back, right? That Derrick Henry style, that Marshawn Lynch style. And Jacobs has been all of that. And it kind of even has filtered down to the backups. Chris Brooks, Emmanuel Wilson, those guys run really hard. What's changed for Green Bay, Charts, the last few years is they were sort of seen as a finesse, kind of middling speed-wise, and they've really become much more physical and much faster on both sides of the ball. They've drafted well at linebacker and gotten speed, and they've just added a physicality to their game because they'd meet up with San Fran or Tampa, and they would get out-physicaled in a big moment, and it just drives you crazy as a fan. Like, that's the one thing you don't want to be, is the less physical team. And I think Green Bay's identity now is turning into that, and I think that's what's sort of filtering down among the roster is like, yeah, we can use that against teams that don't match us there. And I think Minnesota's there too. I think they've proven to be a very physical team, but I think that's what makes this matchup Sunday really interesting is both of these teams have exerted their will on their opponents. They've beaten bad teams, and they've beaten them for the most part pretty handily. And that's why I think both teams are coming into this game just brimming with confidence about where their ceiling might actually be.
Your team is very tough at the line of scrimmage with Josh Jacobs, who we mentioned. Also, Jaden Reed, who catches a lot of short passes, breaks tackles. He's a really, really physical wide receiver. And the Vikings have just gotten destroyed by slot receivers over the last month. And Jaden Reed's going to be a big part of that. But then you've also got the downfield speed that Christian Watson especially brings. Do we know if Christian Watson's going to play yet? What do we know about him and his availability?
I don't. I know it wasn't as bad as they thought, that there was a chance for him to play, but I have not seen any reports. Maybe, Brett, have you after practice today?
Didn't practice yesterday, and I don't believe he practiced today.
Well, yesterday was a walkthrough, so they simulated like he would not have practiced.
I double-checked. Yeah. He did not practice today.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'd be surprised if he plays, just knowing how conservative they are. He's been injury-prone. He's been really, really good this year about being out there, but which is too bad because that takes away some of that big play. You mentioned Jaden Reed. Tucker Kraft's another guy that added an element. Great after the catch, great blocker. Using his inner George Kittle, who he trains with in the offseason, he's not George Kittle yet, but he's sort of on that track to being that kind of player. And again, as a fan, those are the kind of guys you want, right? The guys that they punish defenders. They are known for yards after catch. They are known like that. What was that play a couple weeks ago where he did that WWE move after he got hit really hard and came up like, yeah, it was nothing. I got this. Hey, before we go, I got a few minutes left. I do want to talk fantasy for a second. It's an unusual Week 17 championship week where before the Sunday slate starts, 3 games will have been played already. So a lot of players in their championship will either be trailing or have a nice lead, as I do in your KFAN Guillotine League.
Nicely done.
Do you have any strategy or recommendation if you're already behind the 8 ball in your championship? There's not a ton you can do maybe with your roster at this point, but what do you tell a team that's already facing it before Sunday even starts?
If you need some magic, the approach here that you want to take is, and that might be the case. You're already down. You played against Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce, and you're already down 20, 30 points or something. You need something special. And where it gets tricky is you also need somebody you could pick up and play, which, really limits your availability here. But a couple of options that are at least quasi viable. Don't laugh. I mean, we're talking, this is Hail Mary stuff here. Okay. Mason Rudolph Tennessee plays against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has given up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. You could put in like a Mason Rudolph to Nick Westbrook-Akine or Mason Rudolph to Chigakonku, who he's caught 17 passes from Mason Rudolph the last 2 weeks. And just hope you get lucky and in lightning strikes, because you need a quarterback who can, deliver the ball to somebody you could pick up in an easy matchup. That one might make some sense, Dave. Another one, Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers have got what should be a very favorable matchup against Tampa Bay and that battered secondary that's missing all those players, including Antoine Winfield. And here's Bryce Young. He's run in touchdowns in 3 of the last 4. If Adam Thielen or Xavier Legette or even Jalen Coker are available, that might be a way you could go. You're probably screwed either way, but go down battling, man. If you're looking at your roster and you're already down and you're like, I'm going to lose 9 times out of 10, you need a quarterback wide receiver hookup and just hope that those connect twice and your quarterback runs in one. And, maybe that's a pathway you could do it. I like it. We only have a minute or so. I know you're introducing Guillotine Playoff competition. Yeah. You'll talk about it on your fantasy show, but in 30 seconds or so, what's it all about? Two different ways to play. It's pretty much standard leagues in the playoffs with just 5 teams because there's only 4 weeks of the season, 1 team left at the end, where teams are going to get cut. And then you can bid on the players that are cut. And then a second format called the Championship. And in that one, it's for potentially in very high money leagues with 100 players, stuff like that.
Oh.
And you can pick anybody you want in that format.
Fun. I've been a playoff fantasy guy forever. It's so fun to keep it going in the playoffs. It's fun to have a new format. And I am a guillotine believer, so I'll definitely give it a shot. I'll see you in Plymouth at some point tomorrow
see you
morning.
tomorrow, my friend.
Can't
That'll
wait.
be great.
Thanks for the time, Charch. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Paul Charchian, he'll be a co-host in The Feast with PA tomorrow. Buffalo Wild Wings, Plymouth. I'll be there for a bit. Guardsy is up next, and I'm back Saturday morning for In the Zone as we continue to get ready for a border battle Sunday with the stakes as high as they have ever been. Brett, thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I'll see you Saturday.
Sounds good. Have a great day, everybody. JG is next.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee. So you say,
"Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?"
Brew 2 shots of espresso.
After Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you're ready for some beats.
"Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music."
You head to meet some friends, but can't remember the place.
"Hey, Meta, call Eva."
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, "Hey, Meta," to harness the power of Meta AI. Shop now at meta.com/smartglasses.